What's good? It's Woog. Arthur Beterbiev versus Anthony Yarde just ended, and it ended in an 8th round TKO for Arthur Beterbiev. This was a very good fight. I didn't think that the round by round competitiveness would have been this close. I thought it was going to be a little bit more feast or famine for Anthony Yarde, but he impressed me from a boxing standpoint, even from an energy preservation standpoint. I thought that he was pretty good. And man, I knew that the early rounds were going to be pretty intense, because that's when anything could happen, especially with the power of Anthony Yarde. We know that Arthur Beterbiev is going to be a destructive force, and we know that Anthony Yarde would have to fight by far the best fight of his life in order to not only win against Beterbiev, but to be this competitive. I think that this might have been Anthony Yarde's most impressive performance, just given the handful of challenges at hand. And yes, I think that he could have gone to the body a bit more. And on the broadcast, Andre Ward was calling out for more work to the body, because it was there. And whenever you saw Anthony Yarde really start to open up and to exert himself, he would soon find moments of success. And when he would find that success, he could often even back Beterbiev up, where you see Beterbiev start going to the ropes. Because yes, we were seeing Anthony Yarde go back to the ropes, and we were kind of expecting that he would be the one going back to the ropes. He doesn't have the same, middle of the ring experience or technical ability. Very little amateur background. The idea is that he wants to start backing the guy up, his opponent up, so that he can land power shots as they get closer to the ropes or to the corner. But he wasn't getting completely outclassed in the middle of the ring. I thought that he was fairly competitive. I saw him landing, with a decent amount of jabs. I saw his right hand even get through a few times. I thought that the most dangerous punch that he was throwing was the left hook. But it was interesting. Every time Anthony Yarde would have significant success, where it would be like, wait a second, what is going on? Because there were a couple of rounds, like in the 5th, 6th, 7th-ish rounds, you would see Beterbiev look a little bit hurt. I mean, he got cut in the 6th or 7th round, but he was demonstratively hurt. Not like shaky-legged or wobbly, but where the fighter is still maintaining their poker face, but you see their body language change, where they start backing up a lot more, or going in and trying to clinch all of a sudden. Like, when do you see Beterbiev going in for the tie-up? We had some moments like that, and there were certain rounds where they were both hurting each other, and at different points of the round, starting to back each other up. So I had Anthony Yarde probably winning the first round. I thought that Beterbiev edged the second and probably the third round. So after 3, I basically had a 2-1 Beterbiev. And then the 4th round was a big round for Beterbiev. And I thought that the fight was on the verge of being stopped in the 4th round. I just thought that, oh man, it's about to be all downhill from here for Anthony Yarde. But no, he actually recovered well. He was buzzed in the 4th round pretty badly, recovered pretty well, and then went on to land some more shots of his own, both in that round and then in the 5th round. So this was a pretty exciting and interesting fight. Beterbiev didn't look nearly as near invincible as he has in the past. He did look about as destructive, but he looked like he was laboring a bit. He looked like he was finding his pockets to be able to rest and recover and kind of buy time, use certain movements and feints to, be able to throw a punch without overly exerting yourself. And as jittery as Anthony Yarde was, I thought that he managed his energy pretty well. But it was interesting that the biggest moments that Anthony Yarde would have would soon be followed by big moments from Beterbiev. Like, Beterbiev was consciously making it a point to, get that one back. Okay, you got me with a couple good ones. Let me now turn around, or better yet, turn you around, and then start emptying out some of my combinations. And then he would be landing effectively. And then Anthony Yarde would kind of put his head down and throw one kind of looping haymaker punch at a time. Like when Yarde was in bigger trouble, yeah, he would start doing that almost blindly, kind of just throwing one haymaker, like a bomb, one after the other. But man, this was one of those early candidates for a potential, fight of the year, at least consideration. It might be topped by other fights, but this one has to be in the discussion. And with Beterbiev, yeah, like I said, he was very destructive, and he did end up just catching Anthony Yarde with a brilliant right hand in the 8th round. Dropped him soon after, and then dropped him again. And Anthony Yarde was, pretty badly hurt. Then he was, looking back at his corner, kind of turning his back to the ref, a little bit like Anthony Joshua was in a couple of those knockdowns against Andy Ruiz. So then the ref, started demonstratively calling the instructions, and Anthony Yarde said, yes, I'm down to continue. But I wonder if him looking to his corner was signaling to his corner like, hey, help me out here. And his trainer, Tunde Ajayi, then basically stood up on the apron and called the fight off. And I think that it was a pretty appropriate time to do so. You had the feeling that Anthony Yarde had given everything that he had, and he really did, because a lesser fighter, or even a lesser version, a slightly more inexperienced version of Anthony Yarde would have probably been stopped a couple of times along the way. But I got the impression that he had given everything that he had to give. Now he was badly hurt. Now Artur Beterbiev was even more emboldened and was just going to come in for the kill, essentially. And I thought that it was appropriately timed stoppage-wise. But Beterbiev, he looked very good. He did look vulnerable in certain moments. Like, how there's a recency bias? Well, I bet if you were to float the question out right now, who you got, Beterbiev or Dmitry Bivol, you would probably get a larger percentage of people saying probably Dmitry Bivol than you would have gotten just a week ago before this fight, because of those moments of vulnerability for Artur Beterbiev. He's 38 years old. We knew that going into it, but now we saw him getting backed up in certain moments and wondering, damn, if Anthony Yarde could just put his foot on the gas at certain moments, maybe he could get Beterbiev in even more trouble, and you would have a chance at perhaps stopping Beterbiev. I mean, those were some thoughts, they were crossing my mind. I don't know what y'all were thinking. I was thinking, is this going to be the fight where somebody not only beats but stops Artur Beterbiev, where the hunter becomes the hunted? For a couple moments, I thought that we were about to get that. But again, as soon as a moment like that would occur, Beterbiev would do something, turn him around, and then have Anthony Yarde back up against the ropes, and then he would throw his being Beterbiev's uppercuts, those short hooks with both hands that he loves to throw, just mixing up the punches, then going to the body as well. I was surprised that Anthony Yarde didn't go to the body more. They would find times to go to the body, and every time that they did, it looked effective. But yeah, Beterbiev would be working those body punches into the mix as well, so he would almost steal a lot of those moments from Anthony Yarde away, to where it was hard. Aside from the first round, it was hard to give more than maybe one more round to Anthony Yarde. But the thing is, you could be winning most of the rounds, as Beterbiev was, but those rounds could be tough, competitive rounds where both fighters have their moments, but Beterbiev had more moments, or more of the more significant moments. But yeah, this was a very entertaining fight. We suspected that this one was going to be a banger, and it turned out to be, and it did result in a stoppage. I was wondering, damn, what if this fight of all fights goes the distance? I didn't think that as I was watching the fight, but within boxing, certain fights could occur in a way where nobody really foresaw it going down like that. But yeah, very good win for Artur Beterbiev. Again, I think that most people are probably siding with Dmitry Bivol over Beterbiev. I just hope that they get the fight done already. I mean, Beterbiev is 38 years old. I would hate for him to fight against Dmitry Bivol at 39 years old, or even at 36 and a half years old. Let's really try to get this one going by summertime or something like that. But I know that a lot of this is going to hinge on what becomes of Dmitry Bivol's next fight or two. I mean, if Canelo picks up a fight, in fact is fighting John Ryder, and they get that done for, say, May, then you would think that if Canelo versus Dmitry Bivol 2, or should I say Bivol versus Canelo 2, is going to happen, then it would probably happen in September, which just further kicks that Beterbiev versus Bivol can down the road, and I just hate to see that. So good win for Beterbiev. He maintains his 100% knockout ratio, But yeah, this was a much tougher fight for him than the fight against Joe Smith Jr. was. And, you know, going into this fight, I was thinking, like, if Joe Smith Jr. were to have fought Anthony Yarde, who would I have? I mean, before Joe Smith Jr. got stopped just now by Beterbiev, and obviously before Yarde got stopped by Beterbiev, but who would have won between Joe Smith Jr. and Anthony Yarde? I was thinking probably Joe Smith Jr., just mostly from an experiential standpoint, just trying to check more of the boxes, sweet science-wise. But, man, there's something to be said for hand speed. And no, Anthony Yarde doesn't carry that hand speed necessarily into the second half of the fight. I do think that there is something about his musculature and just his overall build that is going to, you know, kind of handicap him in the second half of a lot of these, especially high-octane, high-action fights. It's just a lot of oxygen that has to be distributed throughout your body. And, you know, we saw Anthony Yarde huffing and puffing by like the third, fourth round. So I think that that's always going to be a challenge for Anthony Yarde. So, yeah, I would probably favor Joe Smith Jr. over Anthony Yarde. The question is, with Beterbiev, he's going to have like some mandatory title defenses. So if he's not fighting Dmitry Bivol in his next fight, who will he fight? It's almost disappointing to even start speculating non-Bivol opponents. I really want to hope that they make Beterbiev's next fight against Dmitry Bivol as opposed to another mandatory, because Beterbiev does have 3 of the 4 belts, and the sanctioning bodies are sometimes more hawkish than others when it comes to insisting and mandating that their mandatory fight is made. But sometimes when you get a battle of undisputed, the sanctioning bodies will just step down and, you know, give their blessing. I hope that that's the case here. But yeah, we'll see. But again, Beterbiev stops Anthony Yarde in the 8th round in a good thriller. I mean, this was a wait a second, especially when some of those power punches from Anthony Yarde were landing. Like, what was it, a left hook or a straight right that noticeably rocked Beterbiev, where I think it was a straight right, and it almost was reminiscent of that right hand that Andre Ward hit Sergey the Crusher Kovalev with in their second fight, the one that basically got Sergey Kovalev on his skates before he was, you know, somewhat controversially, you know, stopped with the body shots, the belt line body shots soon after that. It was a right hand that Andre Ward set up and launched and hit Kovalev with that had Kovalev on super shaky legs. When Anthony Yarde connected with Beterbiev with, I think, a similar right hand, I had that same feeling like, wait a second. Now, Beterbiev didn't wobble in the same way that Sergey Kovalev did, but it just seemed like it took a lot of the air or a lot of the fight out of the fighter in that moment, where it's like, whoa, you know he's feeling that one. So, yeah, exciting fight. The better man won today. Artur Beterbiev continues to be the unified champion, holding 3 of the 4 belts. We'll see what's next. But yeah, I want to hear from you. Please let me know what your thoughts on Beterbiev versus Yarde were or are. How many rounds did you give Anthony Yarde in that fight? Please let me know in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.